Hello, ladies and erstwhile gentlemen.
We are Adventuresome Reviews.
Today,
we are being interrupted in order to review
Shadow, Dead God of A by
Patrick Samfire.
The book is Shadow of the Dead God because my brother over there failed in his responsibilities.
I'm pretty sure we already pulled that stunt, so I didn't want to repetition ourselves. While he's obviously struggling with that notion, I am
trying to use a word I have never used before to convey the point that I'm trying to use because you are so scared of repetition.
I see. While you're searching for that, I am going to read the review.
The review? We've already reviewed this? I wasn't there for it. Oh, was I good?
You are absolutely horrendous. You blew up 3 pipe bombs.
Oh, that sounds fun.
Mixed a Molotov cocktail and made me drink it.
I wish I was there.
I wish I wasn't.
Okay, you may review the synopsis.
It was only supposed to be one little job. A simple curse breaking for Menick Thorne to pay back his oldest friend. But then it all blew up in his face. Now he's been framed for murder. So, how is a second-rate mage? Broke, traumatized, and with a habit of annoying the wrong people, supposed to prove his innocence when everybody believes he's guilty. Menick has no choice if he wants to get out of this. He is going to have to throw himself into the corrupt world of the city's high mages, a world he fled years ago. Faced by supernatural beasts, the mage killing Ashgard, and a ruthless, unknown adversary, he is going to take every trick he possesses to keep him and his friends alive. Totally butchered the last bit there.
Yeah, you're having all with the synopsis.
I know. It's because I'm still suffering from that Molotov cocktail. But a new dark power is rising in Agatos, and all that stands in its way is one damaged mage. Much horror and excitement.
Yeah. So, this is a mystery book, which every now and then is a quite nice little change.
Yes.
The mystery worked for me. It's not like, oh my god, this is the best mystery in the world, I never saw it coming, ah! But the mystery elements were well spaced out for it.
So, the author did a really good job of keeping his cards close to his chest. However, he did not do a decent job of stringing or dropping clues as to the eventual reveal of the grand villain. And that might simply be because I am not terribly mysteriously minded.
No, he didn't really.
And so that may or may not.
That doesn't really bother me, because there were clues throughout the book. You followed from one clue to the next. It's just the clues.
Oh, yeah, no, the main character followed the line of clues and was marginally clever here and there. Just
the author didn't tease you with the actual answer.
And you literally, basically, you had no idea what was going on, really what's going on in the background of the story, what the villains were planning, or who the villain was, or what anything that was going on, until the last chapter or two, when everything in the climax was thrown down.
Which I guess is an acceptable criticism, but that's more of just...
It's not necessarily criticism, but it's could be or could be, depending on your predilections.
Something I quite liked about the book was the way the magic system worked.
Yes.
So the magic system, this is no spoiler, comes from dead gods. And so you have your typical people move in, they worship gods, and then as religions die, the gods die, and then magic in this region, or / across the world, is the decaying energies of dead gods. And that was, for me, just a really cool concept.
Right.
And in the way it expressed and was used in the story, like the concept of smelling magic, or they use a bunch of different...
Every mage perceives magic differently. Our main character, Menick Thorne, does it very visually.
With color, which is kind of like the boring method.
But it's also visually appealing, so... Yeah. 6 of one, half dozen of the other.
I don't know, we've used enough seeing magic. We see magic enough that I would have liked him to perceive the magic via smelling, or sounds, or anything like that.
Or mathematics. That would have been cool.
That would have been
Yes,
weird.
and that way the author could beat the readers over the head with just these high advanced nuclear equations and pretend that we're supposed to know what it means. It would be a great inside joke between him and the main character. It would have been awesome.
Yeah. Speaking of the main character, though, this is where my first criticism really comes in. Mennick Thorne is described as second-rate mage, low power, low ability to actually control magic, but hyper,
very detail-oriented and
very good at the small details or making very pretty designs. There's a good word for it. It's just eluding me at the moment, but regardless, so very
polished.
Very polished. Still not the right word, but you
Closer.
get the gist. Very polished, but low power, and as a personality, why you hear it in the synopsis, he tends to piss people off.
Which doesn't really come into the story too often.
I like that character design.
Especially because he's not necessarily doing it purposefully. He's supposedly not necessarily doing it purposefully.
Yeah, and so you have a character who's not a brute mage. So you have an adept magician who uses skills and creative solutions. At least that's what you're supposed to have to solve his problems. Instead, Mennick's first answer to any issue is to throw brute force at it.
Admittedly, a lot of those scenes are brute force is all that's required. He gets mugged in out, which happens like every chapter. It's ridiculous. Poor guy. And so obviously what you do in those situations is throw up a magical shield, which is basically brute force magic, but that's also what the situation calls for. He is not given any scenarios, or he's not given too many scenarios, where he can play to his strengths, aka the ability to fine-tune spells.
And again, the main personality trait is that, well, not one of the main, not the main, but the personality trait is that he tends to piss people off when he meets them, or when he interacts with them. And he didn't do it. Like, yeah, people get angry at him, but that's because of stuff he actually did and more or less deserves, or because they had ulterior motives behind it. And so this
really
main character
sass too many people, basically.
He didn't even piss them off by accident. He just so the character's two main traits, which I liked, were underutilized in the story for me.
Mm-hmm. That being said, I still actually enjoyed watching him run around this. He had several other traits that weren't mentioned in the synopsis that lended some decent likability to him.
Explain.
So one feature that got a little bit overutilized, I should say, is never turn your back on your friends. Always, there. So he
remains a likable individual.
He likes to beat you over the head with how he will never betray his best friend. Betray is the wrong word. It's kind of leave him out high and dry or anything like that. And he's also deathly terrified of his friend.
I liked her. She was cool.
I know, but I know what I'm saying. I like that he's deathly terrified of this 11-year-old daughter of his friend, and it's.
I want her to join him on his experiences, or rather in his investigations in next
And what's
book.
really good about the author is that the author actually conveys this really well, where she's actually an intimidating character, just not in a very heavy-handed way. She's just scary. It's like one of her 11-year-old whose first solution to any problem is let's kill them, and she whips out a knife
but it's not let's kill them as a joke. No, it's let's kill them, and she is.
And you feel like she's actually capable and dangerous in this.
It's not just feel, she is described as being actively capable of it.
Mm-hmm.
And so it makes for a really nice dynamic between her and Thorne, Mennick, whose name gets reduced to Nick, which is just a tragedy. It's a pet peeve of mine. You have this cool fantasy, or not even just cool, you have this fantasy name, and you shorten it, nickname it down to something pedestrian and boring, and it doesn't even sound as good most of the time. This was a big issue for me in Edward/Ned. Like, I hated the name Ned.
But at least Ned isn't Anglified, I think. Because Nick is an incredibly boring IRL generic name.
Yeah.
Which is probably the only problem I'd levy against it. Ned, at least, is less generic.
We're getting off topic. But
we have that license. This is our show, and we so rarely get off into the
that
weeds.
license. You must do your duty and job and obligations to my satisfaction, or face the consequences.
You were really stringing that together, weren't you?
I was trying to find something to do with it besides just threatening you, because that's getting a little old and generic. So I was trying to find something creative, and the only thing I could come up with is that we have a pie upstairs that I can make you force finish.
Well, if you had stopped earlier, I could have leapt into the boat of I have a job here, which is supposed like just bountiful opportunities. But we're probably getting a little far off now, so let's course correct back onto the main thread of the story. We were discussing Menic Thorne's name and character, as I recall, which I feel is largely... Oh, there is a... Menic Thorne actually had a decent unveiling midway through that I'm not going to spoil it or anything.
Yeah.
But I actually found it really enjoyable.
Yeah.
And it's... It wasn't
we don't need to get into explore, but it's just the author managed to pull something out on the reader, and it's a really enjoyable reveal in its own right, and it really expands on Menic's character. Not expands, but really adds depth and makes his backstory more interesting.
The author actually has a really nice grasp of the entirety of his story, and even some things that he doesn't necessarily pull off to the greatest degree still benefit the story. For example, Menic has a weak ankle, and this pops up routinely throughout the story, and it helps build just this image you have of a character. And while it's never used to any effect in the story beyond, oh, my ankle hurts, boo-hoo-hoo, it's still a decent, just character trait that adds color and such not.
Yeah. I'm trying to remember what else I wanted to say about the book, and it's confusing.
So I'm gonna...
Oh, yeah. So we talked about the mystery, and it was a good mystery, but something that needs to be... because that's preposterous. I liked the way the ghost element of the story, like the way the main antagonist
presented itself or appeared in the world.
Yeah, it was simultaneously dangerous and intimidating,
but also bound by rules, which is really actually nice.
And so there was one instance throughout the book where Menic encounters an issue, or rather encounters the mystery, when the first time he really encounters it, and he talks about and he's thinking about everything and how it doesn't make sense, and in my head I was screaming, there is an obvious way to progress this that you are ignoring. And it, not deeply annoying, but it was very distinctly like, there's an immediate, obvious potential solution to this issue that turns out to be the correct solution, so a little bit of the author failing to disguise that, or failing to box that away as not a quote-unquote plausible solution until he's ready to reveal it as the actual solution, and so just had to make Menic be dumb for a second.
Which is actually not a problem that Menic runs into throughout the book very frequently. He's actually...
Menic, which is why this is...
Menic, well, not a genius, he's
effectively intelligent.
Yes, and he's, like, actually faced with... There's a couple points that the story was like, I literally thought, I do not know how to proceed here in Menic's position, which is an actually really good place to put your characters in.
Yeah.
And he kind of gets a help from out of the blue a couple times, but they're also helping with actively looking for it. They're seeds he planted. Like, I'm going to put out feelers this way and this way, so he actually galvanized the solution. Is just the next step forward came a little bit, exactly when he needed it to be, when he's out dead ends across the board.
I think I don't have anything else to convey about
I have a few.
Okay, go ahead and talk, and I will rebound. I will contradict, argue, defile.
So, I actually really enjoyed the writing style for the book. It's maybe a bit, the sentences might carry on a little bit too long sometimes, but by and large it was a very energetic writing style through word choice and sentence structure, and just the contents of the sentence that made it really quite enjoyable to read.
I didn't really remark upon that, but it's fine if that's the case.
Well, I feel you should agree with me just to be united front.
I agree with him in all ways. He is entirely right in this situation. For those who are listening, I am shaking my head while I agree with him.
I actually did not pick that up. Good thing you told me. I think that might have been like the... Oh, yeah.
We are terrible at this.
Absolutely. Now, this is... Okay, so something that I realized while reviewing this book just now is I actually very impressed with his characters. There's not a single character that shows up in the book from 2-Bit Thug, or not 2-Bit Thug, obviously you have those nameless clowns who show up and hit him over the head, those things, but there's not a single named character in the book that does not have a personality that's different from everybody else who is not, in some degree, memorable, right?
That have their own motivations.
Have their own motivations. Every character...
That was not something I remarked upon when I read the book, but yes.
Are fully fleshed out, and it's actually enjoyable. There's no throwaway characters. From characters you meet halfway through the story to characters you meet really early.
I don't think it's that there's no throwaway characters. There's no characters that are underdeveloped or just exist to fulfill their role in the story.
Like he has an employer really early on in the story, and it's a husband-wife duo. The husband hates his guts. The wife is this superstitious woman, come get rid of the ghosts in my attic type creature. And it's, they're by far not major characters in the story, but they have personalities and it makes them memorable.
Yeah, I would agree.
And it's, probably for me, it's saying right now, it's one of the things I find most stand out for the book.
So, I'd probably give the book 4 stars, maybe 3 7/4. 3.7.5 if I was feeling cruel for a day, but probably more like 4 stars.
I think I might give it like 4 stars, maybe even 4.25, because I really can't throw too many stones at this book.
Just because you can throw stones at something does not mean it's bad, or does not mean it's good.
Well, the fact that I cannot throw too many stones at it would suggest it's...
You can't throw stones...
I've been heaping praise on it for like the past 2 seconds.
You can't throw stones at a cheesecake on the top of a skyscraper if you're on the bottom floor. That does not make the cheesecake on top of the skyscraper special.
It actually kind of does.
Somebody's eating a cheesecake on the top of a skyscraper.
That makes that cheesecake infinitely more interesting than many of the cheesecakes spread across the world.
It's still just a cheesecake.
It's you don't even heights.
Like
95% of its brothers will never reach. Like literal miles.
That is not correct. Regardless, I reject your opinion most assiduously.
I feel rejected horribly.
We must now bid them farewell and adieu and goodbye and other such trite nonsenses. We hope you guys have a good day, week, year, life. General good stuff.
Fairly well, future friends.
Toodles.